I'm Alan Watt, and I'd like to wish you all a Merry Christmas for this 25th of December at the end of 2017. What a year it's been. In fact, the last couple of years have been quite amazing for me and many other people too, mind you. But really, you look back at this time of year. Remember, time is something that's gone. When it happens, it's gone. And all the things you did right or you did wrong, you can't really pull back and go back and change it. You can only change any damage you may be done to yourself or others, hopefully, in the coming years. And that's really what life's about, isn't it? But at Christmas time, which is completely commercialized now into a complete farce as far as I'm concerned. I mean, we are literally the end products of Bernays techniques of mass consumerism. Even though your consumerism, through the talks I've given, it shows you that it's planned to go into a form of austerity where you'll spend more and more money on apps for your phones and computers and things like that. Non-tangible goods, in other words, and that's where your disposable income will go. It's already going for a lot of youngsters. That's where it's going, and also to, that a lot of money is going to various kinds of taxes, fees, and licensing, and so on, which are all just taxes in a sense. And it doesn't matter even when you get tax breaks, because the price, the purchasing power of your currency, doesn't matter what country you're in, is designed to constantly inflate. So what you could buy 1 year for that $1 or £1, you'll probably need $1.25 or 30 for this following year for the same item, basically. Sometimes it's a lot more you pay for it too. And that's the system that was designed that we have no say in fact, because it was on the go before we were even thought of. But it was certainly thought of a long time ago by the guys who manage all. What a con that is. But that's another story. And at Christmas time, as I say, you look back at everything, and I always like to tell people the things you find out in life yourself. When you're really young, you're taught, and you will do it naturally, you look up to folk who are older, and you do hope, and you do, actually, you believe it sometimes, that they know more than you because they're older, they're wiser. And that's what you think, and that's a big lie. I think one day, you keep asking the folk about this and that, until one day you've run out of people to ask. You realise that you're now the old geezer that they're asking the questions from. But what I noticed growing up, was that they didn't really have the answers either. And so when they poo-poo things or put things off, or we'll tell you later, or one day we'll tell you this or tell you that, they don't, because they don't know themselves. And that's an eye-opener in itself when you really fathom that out. It really gives you a jolt to realize how many people really don't know the most important thing of all, about the system that you're living in. They really don't know. They do accept it as normal. They've been trained to believe it's normal. Why shouldn't you? I mean, you shouldn't have to get born into a system and be paranoid about it. And the techniques of control are so perfect today that most folk never fathom it out. They think we're stumbling along through time and big things just happen spontaneously or in reaction to crisis, like temporary fixes and things like that. But nothing is further from the truth. And that's what I try to show throughout the year in the talks I give, is that everything's planned by the big associations. And this isn't conspiracy talk because they publish it in their own publications. It's just that nobody reads it. And some of it is written in such a way as to put you off. There are techniques of putting you off from reading things. We all know this. We all know it. Of course we do. We've been through it too, through schooling and different things as well, where you've got books handed to you that's like, it's just too much to wade through it. It just seems nonsensical. It's like history. Why would you get a big book on history? And all it used to have at one time was dates and times of battles and who the generals were and things like that, down through time. You never heard about the people or the folk who lived in the villages and their names or anything, and how life was for them. It was all about the powerful meeting another powerful opponent and using the little people to fight wars for themselves. And that's all they talked about, is about who won so-and-so. It's kind of like multi-billionaires and millionaires, and you'll read about so-and-so, oh, he built this house or he built this castle. No, he didn't build anything. He never lifted a trowel and some cement and built anything in his life. The people did it, but the people don't count. That's why they don't tell you their names. But we're all descended from the people that you don't know the names of. That's where we all came from. And we are the end products of their lives and their famines and their ongoing wars, and their austerity is had bad harvests and things like that. And we are the products of it all, of folks struggling, always struggling. And then you have added to the mix today, and for the last 100-odd years, you've had the Darwinian concept, which helps to justify the elite's idea of ruling the world, ruling over the peasantry, basically. The inferior types, as I like to call everybody else. So it goes on and on and on, doesn't it? This power over, etc., etc. And it's difficult for ordinary people to comprehend. I know that. You know, it's very difficult to believe there are folk out there who would change the world for their own benefits, for their own personal benefits, not for the people, but for themselves. And it's true, you're given today these cutout type characters, the Bill Gates and the Elon Musk and so on, they've been elevated to the top because of what? Because they're rich. They're businessmen. And the CFR, Council on Foreign Relations, that helps rule the planet and advise every government in the world what to do. And you don't vote them in, as I say. They're a private organization. You can't just go and join them. You have to be asked if they need you or not. And even then, they'll vet you heavily. But that's what helps run the world for the elite, you see. And they put out their own publications as well about the future of the planet, the globalization and the free trade ideals, which is not free at all, as I've talked before about. We're all subsidizing all the so-called up-and-coming emerging nations. We're paying to put factories in for them. We're paying for the cost of the factories and for their hospitals and all that. And we're paying even to import their stuff into our own countries. And we're paying for the post as well. And so naturally the big corporations that set up the free trade deals through the CFR and so on, they all move off to all these third world countries. We pay for putting their factories up for them, the whole thing. And they've got it made. It's all a racket. The world is comprised of racket upon racket upon racket, and that's what they call reality. And that's why they go so heavily overboard and in massive indoctrination, so that most folk never figure it out. And most people certainly go through their lives struggling. So as I say, it's one war after another. It's one depression. They like to call it recessions now, but it's depressions when financial collapses or near collapses happen and your dollar is worth nothing and your pound's worth nothing and all your other currencies are worth nothing. Look at Greece, poor Greece, getting hammered and hammered and hammered and hammered. They'll never get out of it. It's not meant to get out. You can't get out of compound interest. That's why it was designed that way. And other countries are following suit. And they won't be happy, the big boys and the World Bank, these private organizations and IMF, they won't be happy until they've got every country in the same position forever and ever and ever. Then they can amalgamate you all and call you whatever they want to call you. Or that's the big plan, because you're living in a Darwinian eugenical system where the elite and powerful and ruthless have deemed it okay to be ruthless and powerful and merciless. Because they have the backing now of the survival of the fittest, as they call it. They even laud, they have programs out now lauding psychopaths. Oh, nothing would change if it wasn't for the psychopaths taking chances. And you can see it everywhere as they devalue life and so on. But we're living through it. But at the same time, they haven't eradicated the natural humanity that still exists in a lot of people out there. And that's your survival mechanism. Is the bond between everybody else. And you will find it through your life here and there. You meet people who are so in tune with you. They're not in the majority, but they're so in tune with you that it's almost a spiritual experience when you meet them. It's like meeting some real genetic twin or something. That's what you feel like. And if you've gone through the wilderness, and that's the meaning of the wilderness too, if you've gone through the wilderness of the world, and you feel so alone, then it's an incredible relief to meet people of like minds. You might not agree on everything, and that's fine. Just don't argue about it. But you take what your experiences and what you've learned and listen to each other as well. Don't argue, say listen, because you will learn things. Doesn't matter who you're talking to or even arguing with, you'll learn things. It's awfully important. But the whole idea, as I say, is to think for yourself, because the rulers, and I've read all their books on socialism and then the scientific socialism and so on, how you bring up the right kind of people through the right kind of culture. China is a great example. They do publish a lot of stuff on how they do it. And they're quite open about it, and it's for the good of society, the greater good as they call it. So everyone gets the same indoctrination, and the West is following suit with all of its plans. And it's an old idea. China didn't invent it. It was invented in a lot of in England, actually, through the Fabian societies and the Royal Institute for International Affairs. They all work together, all part of the one system, different branches of the one system. The left wing and the right wing has to exist to manage to fly the bird, which is us. We're the body. And we're managed that way. And Bertrand Russell said it too, that eventually a system will come in and it will be cashless, and the government will just deposit into your bank, just like communism. That was actually the idea of communism, central control, where the government owned everything, and it's very similar. Only the corporations are part of it, you see. They call it governance. And they'll dish into your account, as I've said many times before, a certain amount of tokens for you to live on for the week or the fortnight or the month. And you can't save them up. So if you haven't used them up by the end of that period, the next installment goes in, the old stuff disappears. You can't save it up. That way, you'll be kept at a level where no one can get above anybody else. But the ones at the top, of course, are already there. They have a different system for themselves. That's why they're pushing massively for cashless society. And you'll be punished again. Anything you need for rent and so on, you get punished. They'll withhold your credits and withhold this, and because you're bad, until it gets through that you better apologize and just do what you're told. And that's the system we're in now, the same Chinese system, where you must have social approval and social disapproval. That's what they're using. They're actually trying people, like a court. They're trying them. This is the idea, to get you into likes, dislikes, and so on, or this person good or the bad, and you'll eventually try them on the internet. So it's mob rule, but the mob always does what they're told, and you won't even know who's at the very top leading the mob, you see. They don't know either. It's all done by plan. And that's how you'll learn very quickly not to say this, not to say that, and you'll actually plead positive for the government all the time, and that's what they want. No conspiracy here. They've published it all in China. And don't forget, I've read the articles from the mainstream newspapers and all the big foundations saying that China, and the United Nations, that says China is the model state for the world. That's the model state for the world. We're all to copy them eventually. And China will take over from the US eventually as a policeman of the world. And that was actually published in the 1930s by the group that eventually became known as the Royal Institute for International Affairs, Council on Foreign Relations. We're living through a big plan, but we're not defeated yet. As long as there's enough people there who can reclaim their identity, and by that, it's just your identity is your mind. That's what, as far as I'm concerned, that's your mind. That's sanity. Sanity. Not some other bizarre, broken system they give you, which will break you up. If it's some other kind of strange identity, I'm talking about your mind itself. If you can't reclaim your mind, you got nothing. You got nothing. You're a clone. You're a clone. You're given this mind for its uniqueness, for the ability to reclaim its uniqueness. And the worlds that you can go to are the worlds that are all contained inside the mind, if you allow it to take over and guide you as well. So here we are at Christmas again. As I say, it's all commercialized now. It's so terrible, isn't it? And it's all for the corporations. And they've trained the whole society to get crazy about it and buy. And we know, I've gone through the talks before, where they know that toothbrush, that special toothbrush, or that toothpaste doesn't make you happy at all. It's all a con, and it's the same all the things that you buy too, you see. We need bare essentials. If you can't have the essentials, you won't have a good life at all. Bare essentials: heat, clothing, shelter, and work. I mean, they're taking work away from you too. Through free trade. But so you've got to find something you can do yourself. But all these things are essential for your own survival and your own mental health. And you can't have mental health if you're freezing to death, as they are in some places in Britain right now, with a massive, can you imagine the burden of taxation they have? A country that's already sinking, you might say. If it could sink, it would sink with the masses that are on it right now coming in all the time. And a welfare system that's based on pure borrowing, because there isn't enough folk left to pay all the borrowing anymore. It is accumulating like crazy. So it can't last. It doesn't matter if Britain leaves Europe or not, and it should never go in the first place, but if it leaves it, it's going to have inherent problems from now on. Already has. It's got gangs everywhere now that can be literally, and you can see them in the newspapers and going around squirting acid into shopkeepers' faces and plundering them and so on. And this is just to be the normal, and folk are getting told to accept it. This is normal, and terrorism's normal from now on, and so on. And that doesn't leave you much hope. A lot of people, if they can, will leave and they'll get out, and if they can. And for other ones too, they'll have to move into areas that are still fairly rural to get some peace and safety, I think. And at least be able to feed themselves with a good garden or something. But that shows you, as I say, getting back to what I was saying about the Elon Musk and the Gates and all the rest of them, the ones that the CFR said eventually, all these philanthropists, as I like to call them, these must take their rightful place in governance, world governance. Council on Foreign Relations said that. Well, have you seen your constitutions changed to accommodate that? Of course not. Well, why is your government pushing all and giving them all this power? Individuals' power. That's a different story again, of course. And that's why we're in the mess we're in, with all these so-called great thinkers of the past that were elevated up there, who decided to like the Fabian Society, and smash the world like on an anvil and bash it into the proper shape that it should be in, according to all the control freaks that were managing it all. Nothing's changed. And these people at the top are fanatics, and they're ruthless, and they're psychopaths. They don't walk amongst the mess that they create for everybody else. They don't live near them either. So when I first came out, I said it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. But for those who are seeking truth, at least I can maybe help here and there and stop you bashing your own heads against the wall, when you just know that what you're being told and what you can find out is not enough. It doesn't mesh. It doesn't mesh. And the people with the best minds tend to turn on themselves, decline in their brain, and they won't fit in because they're asking questions that the rest of society don't ask. Because there are people who do go through life who don't ask any questions at all. That is true. I don't condemn them. There are people who are really decent, good people, who just go through life day by day and do what they can, but they don't question anything. And if you have a mind that questions, you can't switch it off. You've been given it. It's simple as that. Born with it. Anyway, I've had lots and lots of people from all over the planet that have followed me for years, and they email me, and I try to get back to them, and anybody I haven't got around to yet, hopefully I will. I've got the same problems everybody else goes. We go through computer crashes, and you lose this and you lose that, and stuff like that happens because we don't get the NAC type level, the advanced computers that are really the normal computers. We're using antiques, the stuff they give us. But the NAC have got all the best stuff. The real stuff, stuff that's meant to last for years and work awfully well. Because we are part of the business, you see, and we've got to keep buying and upgrading nonsense like that. It's part of the system. And it won't last forever because now they're taking away the ability to speak. Now, I said that 20 odd years ago, they'll give you all this stuff free, blah, 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 and let you really play yourselves. And you'll think, oh, you're on top of the world, you can say what you want, do what you want, even really anger people or tick folk off, whatever it happens to be. But now you can't, you see, because you're being trained to be good, social approval, disapproval, and if you're bad, and you won't conform to their ideas, then you're going to get punished. by withholding, like Bertrand Russell said, things that you need to survive. And everybody needs almost a computer to survive now, almost. You still get by without it if you're in the country and you got a good garden and you get enough money just to survive. You can get away with it. All depends what you want from life. So anyway, for all those who are surviving, and I know the tragedies and I know the happy points too that people go through because they keep in touch with me. We're all human. This is what was the beauty of it all too. We're all human. That's what humanity is about. We don't sail through life. You're going to have your ups and downs and good times and bad times, and that's what life's about. And that's how we grow. That's how we learn things too. We grow. If you're living in perpetual happiness, you would be you'd be unipolar. You'd be manic all the time. You would have no idea. You couldn't empathize with people who are down there in despair because you never had it. And that's why we get to all these different high points and low points in our lives. That makes you grow. Makes you grow. There are also those who have died. I'm sure we all know people have died this year. And that's part of life too. We've all come close to it at times too. I'm sure lots of us have. I've done it myself in the last couple of years. And you don't know if you're going to get through the next point until you wait and see if your health improves or not. That's what happens. So remember, this is Christmas again. You're meant to reflect on all this at this time of year. And Christmas again was they adapted it for the old midwinter festivals. And for Europe, it's a great idea, and for North America, a great idea, because in Scandinavia, it symbolizes the death of the year as well. A whole year gone past. You made it through a whole year. And you're at a stage now, a crucial stage, in the cold times of winter, where everything seems dead, and the plant life seems dead. And you're waiting to see if you can get through the next one, where the sun starts to rise, the warmth comes back, and it symbolizes life again. It all works together. And that's why it's such a big thing in Western cultures. The temperature here has been much colder so far this winter for the time of year than it has been previously. Generally, the coldest parts I've found here in January, sometimes into February, where you get 30 to 40 below. When you hit 40, it's the same in both Fahrenheit and centigrade, basically. And for the next week coming, for instance, it won't get above, during the day, 20 below on the centigrade scale, or 18, I think is the centigrade scale, which is around the 0 Fahrenheit. And much, much colder at night, of course. You'll probably be hitting 25, maybe even 30 below. They're calling for a real blast. Because of global warming, you see, and all that nonsense. But I do think of people, and that's what life is thinking of people who are in touch with you, and people who open up, and that's part of life too, is opening up through all our problems and so on, and touching other people, as I say. That's what Christmas is about. It's not about gifts and presents and toys, That's a side effect that really... When I was small, the main thing you got at Christmas was at times of sometimes some fruit, maybe a couple of small toys, very cheap. But the rest of it was your clothing for the next year, for school and so on, and socks and things which were essential. But it's turned into utter commercial farce today. That means nothing at all, because you're coming from one sale to the other. And they even apparently in the newspapers are saying in Britain and other places that they've already got today or yesterday, they're already putting in Easter stuff into the stores. And then there'll be the madness of the Boxing Day. It started off as a day sales, and now it's like a week or 2 weeks now. Crazy. Yep. So there you go. So remember, it's all supposedly about people, about a side of humanity that deals with life and death and all the rest of it. And remember, it's best not to live in being bitter with other people too. Sometimes you have to rectify things. If you can't make up, it depends on the situations, but you can't be bitter all the time. That'll kill you in the end. And think for yourself. That's awfully important. And you must try and keep your health up in these trying times. And don't let the media, don't let very professional organizations use your emotions and have you gritting your teeth so as you'll push to fulfill their cause, and you won't even really know what their cause is. You'll think you do, but you won't. Don't ever forget that. Don't forget it. Professional systems, professional organizations who know exactly how to turn you on, switch you on, and get the emotions going till you're grinding your teeth. Then they use you, then they toss you away. Because the sciences of behaviorism and psychology are so well understood today. So well. Don't let it happen to you. Pull back. Anyway, I hope you have a really good Christmas. Quiet. I hope you're keeping warm. I just got a load of wood, and today I brought more in to the house as for the fire, because it's going to be plummeting tonight, big time. And don't overdo it again with the usual things at Christmas time. And if you really are putting it off, phoning this person or that person, or getting in touch with them, or sending them a note, or emailing them, or whatever, don't just do it. And there's no harm in it. Get it done with. Keep up with each other. And by the way, I'll put in the old stuff, the old music. My hands are wrapped up right now. I'll put the old music up that I've played previous Christmases. I always just did them on the spot of the day. I never bothered to work them out and make them smooth out the little bits here and there. I just did it right off the cuff. So what I've done tonight too, and today, I think it's been 8 years or more since I opened the guitar case. I used to do occasional compositions. Even then, when I hadn't touched the guitar for years previously, and I would do one at Christmas time, and your fingers get worse and worse, and as you chop wood and all the rest of it. But I did pull the guitar a few days ago there to try to get it tuned. I actually bust one of my strings. Luckily, it bust just on the head, so I could tie it. Though it's on the classical guitar, tie it together, eh? And it held, eh? So I got up this morning, and I generally, even though I try and keep melodies out of my head and compositions out they come to me at times. Still, even though I said that there's no time for this kind of thing when we're going through this big war that I've been going through for a long, long time. So I put the guitar away to an extent, but I did pull it out this morning, and I rattled off in some form, some poor fashion, the beginnings, or at least the raw versions of some compositions that have been rattling around in my head, that when I get up, and I'll put them up tonight for you. And the first one is called The War. This is the war that is upon you and that you're going through right now. And the second one is Be Still and Know. And the third one is called Journey in the Land of Nod. Because sometimes you have to get your mind will take you into a little bit of escapism to keep you healthy once in a while. Gives you a little break. It's like soldiers on leave. You get a bit of leave inside your own skull. And your brain needs it sometimes. So the land of Nod, that kind of never land. You're almost sleeping. And that's what that one is too. But yeah, it's been 2012 since I picked the guitar up at all, you know. So I hope you enjoy it. As I say, it's the rough versions played straight out from my head onto the guitar, and I might work on them later as well, and brush them all up and clean them all up and tidy them all up. A whole bunch I've got still to do, and from the previous years that I did it, because I kind of used to do this for a living at one time. So anyway, take care of yourselves. Have a good Christmas, regardless. And don't just get terrified. Turn off that TV and regardless of what they got planned. You don't have to go along with all of it, believe you me. And there's more to this war than meets the eye. And this is the last thing you want to think about is the otherness of what's involved in all of this. They don't want you to think of that because you might get some power from the otherness, you know what I'm saying? And they know it too. They want you, if they can bring you into their battlefield, and their battlefield is the purely physical and monetary and material and financial, if they can bring you in on it, you see, and the scientific, like the Nietzschean battle. If God is dead, he says, then they can do what they want. All the things that was unthinkable, they can do all the things that are unthinkable. Well, you see, he said, if God was dead, eh? That's a big thing too, because a big idea, the thing that they're terrified of, the big idea, is that you might have the big idea too, and revamp something or revitalize something that they wanted you to forget altogether. People fight for causes, big causes, and the bigger the cause, it comes from the bigger the meaning behind the cause, you see. It isn't just for us and liberty, no, it's for something much bigger. That's what they know, and they're terrified of. If people unite literally for something else that's bigger than themselves, that scares the people at the top. They on their battlefield, they can pull scientists out the hat anytime they want to. They'll try and bamboozle you with their nonsense. But when it comes into something else, personal experience, and something that exists here in the world and outside the world, that scares them. It's out of their realm, you see, and you're not supposed to think about it. So don't give up. And again, people can laugh at that too, because they've fallen for the plain battlefield of the physical. But they've never experienced things that are beyond themselves. I would love to be pure. I've always said this. I'd love to be purely rational at times, and I'd love to be purely logical at times. You see, things that are beyond this world are wrapped up in the logical world. You see, the material world. It'd be safe for you, and you say, "Well, but I can't because I'm not allowed to. I'm not allowed to, folks." I've said this so many times. Each time I try to, I get kind of cocky and think, I'm doing okay, and blah, 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 blah. This is many years ago, maybe. Then something would slap me right down. That shouldn't happen. 1,000 things that shouldn't happen would happen to me each time. Until you get the message. No, yes, this is not for you, you know. There's something else here. So I have no option but to accept that in the proof. And because of that proof, you can never talk to people who don't have that, who've never had experiences, and they don't have the proof of it. So I don't even bother mentioning it generally. And it doesn't mean you can go crazy with it too and run amok into some la-la land. The fact is, you have to use the knowledge wisely, even for yourself too. You know, you're living in a physical world, and you do have to deal with the physical world, no doubt about it, big time. But you get glimpses of the other in this world too, the other side of it all. And you also get it with relationships with people, also the evil side with relationships with people. You get it all. This is the middle plane, as they call it, where everything happens. And you experience all the things. And people make their choices here. There's no doubt about that either. Eh? They really do make choices here. We do it all the time. So remember, folks, have a good Christmas, enjoy the music, and forgive the little rusty bits. You'll hear it. I feel it here and there. I'm sure half the time I was playing the strings, it wasn't my strings at all. My fingers are so brittle now. I think they were twanging, you see, and maybe adding to the harmony a little bit. So for myself, Alan Watt from Ontario, Canada. Have a Merry Christmas and good night. Take care.